So anything you focus on expands, period. And so as you navigate every experience and you allow yourself to come from that anchored knowing that I am more conscious of my understanding of me, of my being, and my connection to the field as the field than I have ever been before, you are then aligning and solidifying that to continue to expand for you as you. So you can read the field, you can read you can read all spaces. And if some people say, well, I don't understand, what does she mean by read? Sense. Okay, so why? Because when you implement the basis of our main go-tos for our understanding of navigating experiences, perception, check your perception of the space, presence, are you being present or are you still thinking about or acting from a space of old energy? Bringing in some pain from a past space into a now space. That's not presence. Are you being patient with yourself as you're navigating the space? And are you putting everything into practice, right? Are you implementing your new understandings or are you running the old? And then are you allowing yourself to see your power in that moment, which then anchors you into the peace that passes all understanding. And if anybody wants more detail on those 6 P's, they can go back to the Being the New Humans that we've already had, because they both have those in there in depth. So you can always go back and rewatch those. But now we're talking about a conscious compass and moving into this understanding of you are charting in the uncharted. You are charting, if you will, you are making the course from a blank slate. You've never been this you, this present, this patient, this powerful, yet in this now. So a couple things, knowing that, like reminding yourself of that, is key for continued alignment, because whatever you focus on expands. And again, I reiterate just a bit, but I was trying to catch it up a bit for everyone. And then leaning in and allowing yourself to chart. So when you're charting your course from an unknown space, if you will, like you've never been here before, we talked about how when we talked about this a couple classes ago, when we take a kid to like a place they've never been, the awe and the wonder, like you take a kid to Disney or you take a kid to, I don't know, any of these spaces that humanity has deemed as the be all end all for family vacations and or children. And I want to be a Debbie Downer, but I just got to a point where I saw a lot of the corporation side of this and I stopped doing that and I started going into nature more with my family. But anyways, the concept of, even when I took my kids to Sedona, that's a great one. They were teenagers at the time, but when I took them there for the first time, they were in awe. They were in awe. They looked up at the red rock formations and the sky and just the whole space. It just takes your breath away because it's so beautiful and they hadn't seen it before. Okay, so like allowing ourselves to remember that kind of concept of awe and wonder when we're using our conscious compass on uncharted seas. Look for the awe and wonder of you. Look for the awe and the wonder in the space around you as you're entering in. It's so powerful. Follow me here. If you list, like, we're just going to use a regular example. You're walking into a family gathering, you haven't seen anybody in, several years, and you're a lot different than you were the last time you saw them. So if you can come into that family gathering with awe and wonder of what newness will I see, that's a powerful lens to wear. That's a powerful set of lenses to be looking through. Perception. Think about it. You can either go in with the perception of what has gone wrong in the past will go wrong again, or the spaces that were dense and difficult and heavy, oh, they're probably all going to be there waiting for me. That's a perceptional view. It can be as valid as you want to align it. But it is possible that you can implement what newness will be present. Because if you're new and that your vibration is part of that which creates the environment around you, then it's inevitable something in that space is going to be new. Something's going to be different. It may not be, as different as you want it to be completely yet, but going in with the lens, the perception, the belief structure, the energetic alignment, that seeing it in its highest light is such a powerful, conscious compass to have. Because what's happening is when you're utilizing that compass, right, and you're going, and this is all, for us to just have a vision in our minds, but you're utilizing that conscious compass, and it's got perception, presence, patience, practice, power, and peace, and so much more, awe and wonder. And you're watching that dial spin as you're navigating into an unknown. You're allowing that unknown to be its best instead of placing it in a density of the past. You're allowing that unknown to be its best. You are so powerful. You fuel the spaces you experience. You fuel the spaces you walk through that you have. And even if you will allow, please, even if the players that come into the experience that you're having, like the other individuals, whatever, even if they are not all perceiving it with awe of allowing it to be its best version, even if one of them or two of them or all of them are not in the same space as you, that's where your power lies, to acknowledge that that doesn't matter. They're not creating your reality. You are. They are not creating your experience. You are. And that is a big step to ask of anyone. But here's the thing, you can do it. You have the power. Some spaces are way easier to do it in than others, but you have the ability to do it. I've done it, and I've done it in many different ways at many different times. Certain experiences, I did it in baby steps, meaning I would still go. I wouldn't have the best view of the space in mind. I wasn't there yet. I wasn't in a space where that was so easy, It was like I wanted to see the best. I wanted to envision the best, but I still had some fears and some hangups about some past spaces, some past hurts I felt when I was in that space the last time. So I acknowledge that. I'm not trying to act like everything is just bing, bang, boom, easy. I see everything right where everybody is at, and I acknowledge that. But I'm saying, I did it. You can do this. I really did this. You could do this. There are spaces that I still have the revisit, if you will, with family members that certain ones, there's not a lot of change going on. That's okay though. I don't mind anymore. I used to mind, but now I don't mind, because if I am upset by the lack of conscious change in someone else, then is there really any conscious change in me? If I'm upset by the lack of conscious change in someone else, then I've got stuff in me that I have not really healed. Because when one lets go of judging another's conscious change, it is because one has stopped judging its own. And that's when one has really expanded. When one has let go of all of those spaces of tightening a grip with attachment and judgment and wanting to make things a certain way, or people be a certain way, or for you to be treated a certain way. You can be and can feel worthy, even if they aren't seeing you or treating you that way. And you can feel loved, even if they're not seeing you and treating you that way. You can feel heard even if they're not hearing you. You can feel your own sovereignty even if they're treating you in an opposite manner, because what's actually being offered in that space is true sovereignty. It's truly being heard, because it's truly being loved, because you know what's being offered to you? For you to do it first. For you. It's a space where you're being offered the opportunity. I was offered the opportunity to say, instead of saying, they don't see me, they don't hear me, they don't love me, I can say, I hear me, I see me, I love me. And I can anchor that self-love, self-worth first. And it's inevitable. It's inevitable that the minute you really anchor that for yourself first, without having to have anybody on the outside give it to you, but you give it to you first. And against all odds is even more powerful. So when the outside is not looking the way that you're wanting it to, but you're able to still give yourself what you're wanting the outside to give you, that shifts everything. It shifts everything. And anybody who is not aligned to show up and to be in that space with you, in alignment with the energy you're giving yourself, that those relationships usually just kind of go about their business in different directions. And that's okay. That's part of being conscious as well, is not judging even that part. I have certain family members I'm really close to. And see, I use family a lot because that's usually the space most people need assistance with, because it's harder, because you feel like they should love you or they should see you because they're this or they're that to you relatively. But this is across the board. So this is people you work with, this is neighbors, this is all, everybody. But just keeping in mind that the place it starts, if you're going to utilize your conscious compass and truly come from clear perception, divine presence, patience with your being, practicing and implementing all these spaces of higher consciousness, living in being present, being in that space of your sovereignty, embodying that power, holding that peace. If you're truly doing this, if you're truly in that space of connection, and again, you can move kind of in and out in a sense as you're learning. That's not a problem at all. But I'm going to tell you, you come to a point where you never leave it again, because you can't. It's embedded in you then. In the beginning, it's almost like you're trying to unlearn, right? You're trying to unlearn ways in which you've always done, reactions you've always had, right? Like they say this, you say that. They act like this, you act like that, and it's this embedded kind of way of being that we're unlearning. And then we're implementing this new way. But just as much as the old way was default, and the old way used to be the only thing that you ever knew, and it was easy, you did it with your eyes closed, the new way becomes that. The new way of being becomes that. It becomes your default. It becomes your truth. You're living from your wholeness, and it is everything. It is the peace that passes all understanding. So allowing yourself and others that freedom and that space, because when you're really embracing you and allowing you, and you're leaning in to the uncharted seas, right? There's no map. You've never been here before. You are really freeing yourself to then anchor the wholeness in. Wholeness is not anchored within spaces in which one feels unheard, unloved, angered, In those spaces, the being is feeling as if it is vulnerable or if it is wounded and it needs to protect itself in some way. And that's why it reacts. It's not a response, it's a react. Response has to do with responsible conscious choice. But react is coming from some type of pain, some type of harm, some type of hurt. But when one truly anchors in its wholeness, it's not just on that now version anymore to navigate those emotions in that space. Remember, we talked about that a lot. How when you're just coming from the now you and you're not allowing your wholeness, your God space, then the space that you're dealing with seems really big and you're like this underneath it and it's kind of crushing its weight on you, right? But when you come back out away from it and you pull back away from it, you are much vaster than it. It becomes a moment of your eternal experience instead of it feeling like an eternal experience continuing to be heavy upon you. It's a total shift of perception from vantage point. And that's part of reading that compass. And the reason why I call it a conscious compass is because in order to read it, you have to be conscious. In order to read it, you have to be conscious. You have to be in a space where you are coming from your whole being looking at the map. Your God space is looking at the map. Your I am within is looking at the map. Your higher self is looking at the map. Your inner child is looking at the map. Your past life is looking at the map. Your whole eternal being looking at the map is able to utilize a conscious compass. It is able to chart a course out energetically aligned to its greatest and highest good. But when you step out of that wholeness and you go back into feeling separate, which that is when the being starts saying, how could they say that to me? Why did I get hurt like that? Why did da 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 da? And I'm not discounting anything that happens to anybody. Please know that. I love you all, and I don't do this to harm people. I do this because I want to try to assist people. I used to live in that space a long time ago, and it is a really dense, dark space. I don't want anybody to live there. But the way you stop living there is you have to stop thinking and looking at yourself and everything else through that lens. You have to begin to shift into a new space of your consciousness. If you want to leave that space, if you want to keep experiencing it and you're like, this is too much work, never mind, this is too hard, I'll never get out, I can't change, they won't change, whatever your thing is, then it's just the consciousness of the now space that you're experiencing isn't ready yet. And truly, there shouldn't be any judgment because listen, you're eternal. You're eternal. You've got plenty of time to figure this out. Even just allowing yourself off the hook with that kind of understanding expands and loosens up that grip. Remember, we talked about attachment and judgment. When you grip onto the space and you say, yeah, but they won't, or they never stop, or it's always this way, that's attachment and judgment. You're attaching to the space and then you're judging the heck out of it. And anytime you do that, you constrict the flow of you. So now you're stuck in the field in that specific space, experiencing those specific energies. And you will continue to have them again and again and again, as long as you continue to judge them and attach to them. But when you can let go and you can trust your wholeness and you can step back and you start giving yourself love first, don't ask them to love you. Stop. They can't. You haven't loved you yet. Go love you first. And then all the outside will just fall into place. And those that aren't ready to fall into place, they will move into another space and you won't have as much interaction. And that will be a space that you have aligned as well for your greater good. But if you can lean in to the space of trust and allow but really releasing the others, because we can't make anybody do anything but our own being. That is the only thing that we're responsible for and that we can control, in a sense, is how we choose to live and navigate our experiences. Now, remembering that the field, so everything that you're experiencing, I call that the field. I use that term a lot because it's helping us even expand our conscious understanding of us as we're just hearing these terms. So your being, if you're able to, go like this, like touch your shoulders for a second. Yeah, there you go. Good, good, good. So there's you, right? This is you in this now space. You are also at the same exact time the whole field, but you're experiencing this now part of the field through this body, this being, this avatar, this suit that you are looking through the eyes of. And that alone is a huge space that opens you wide up to shift the heck out of your life, because you have just stepped out of that now line being separate. You know, you've stopped looking at yourself in that small view, and you've allowed yourself to see your wholeness. You are the whole field. You just happen to be looking through these eyes, your eyes right now. And now you can read the field when you're in any situation, any space, whether it's a family gathering, a workspace, dream space, it doesn't matter. You can read the field because the field is you and everything around you, physically seen, and then also in what I call the quantum, which is that which is beyond the physical sight. Because there's beautiful beings of light right here, right now, around me, but they're in a vibrational space that the human eye doesn't pick up on all the time. Sometimes we catch them in film and so forth, but all of that is now. It's just we're not perceiving it the same because of the space of our vibration in which our eyes are looking through. I know it's a lot of spaces here to be discussing, but every time we talk about them, it allows us to expand our understanding of consciousness, which is allowing us to expand our understanding of our being. And when you expand your understanding of your being, you expand how you experience that being. And so that's the goal. So you can read the field, meaning you go into a space, a situation, whatever, and if you are picking up on your chest starts beating, your heart's racing, your throat starts to tighten, you start a little anxiety coming in, or you start feeling uncomfortable in some way. First off, read that space, read what you're feeling by just thinking about it for a minute. Everybody's looking, the situation's happening, the events occurring, but you are inside your being, registering, reading the space. And you're thinking to yourself, first off, is this me? Is this my energy? And is it old? Did I bring an old memory in here with me? Right? Just like we talked about in the beginning, where you show up at an event anticipating it's going to be what it's always been. So when you walk in, the vibration in the being is of the last time you were there and something didn't go the way that it ideally, or it was uncomfortable, or maybe it was traumatic. But first off, is it legitimately the now energy, or is it something you're bringing in? And then you can just allow yourself to read that, and you'll have to trust your inner knowing, and you'll get better and better at it the more you do it. Now, what you can do immediately is you can just say, I step back. I do that all the time. Just say that. I step back. So simple. I step back. I'm telling you, it really, really works. I want you guys to implement it, and we'll talk about it next time we meet in a group for class, or you can email me and let me know. It works when you're in a one-on-one. It works in a group. It works even if you're sitting in bed at night about to go to sleep and you feel the energy change, or you have a dream and it's got, uncomfortable energy in it, or you're out of body or astral projecting, or you're in a meditation. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Anytime you're sensing the energy fluctuation and you aren't too keen on it or you're not too sure on it, you can read it. And if you are either still unsure or it still feels off and you can tell what it is, but you're not able to shift it per se, say that in your being. And you can even say it out loud if you need to, but I say it in my being. I say, I step back. And then if I'm still feeling it, I will say, as if I'm talking to whatever the energy is coming from, please step back. So now I've allowed it to go to the other side of the experience, because it can be something else, right? It can be somebody else's energy that you're reading, and maybe they're not in the best space. But I always do me first. I step back because that's my responsibility. And then if I'm still feeling it, please step back. And I'm going to be honest with you. I have had past loved ones that come to want to talk to me, and they're lovely and I love them. And they're in such high vibrational spaces, like they are really high, that they've been gone for quite some time, but I couldn't talk to them before because I wasn't in a space where I vibrationally could connect, because you cannot go above a certain point vibrationally. You can only connect in so high. So when these past loved ones were trying to communicate with me, I couldn't hear them for a long time because I wasn't in a vibrational space where my vibration was close enough. And we're still not aligned. They're much higher than me, but I can tell when it's them. There's just a handful, like 2 or 3 of them. I can tell when it's them because my energy in my chest will change and in my throat. And it does feel like anxiety. And I want to share this with everyone because you're all sensitive to knowing energy and reading energy, and you're moving into these higher spaces of consciousness where you're going to feel more, and you need to be allowed to take that into consideration. It's not always it's a bad day and you're having anxiety. It could be that some beautiful being of light is a little too close, as in they're so big, their energy is so intense that your physical body feels it. That legitimately happens. Now, what I'll say is please step back. Now, that can be to anybody, whether I know it's them or not, right? It can be to any type of vibration. If I'm a family member that's in the living, is in the space, and maybe they're having a bad day and they've got some not nice energy going on, I can be please step back. So it's just an acknowledgement of your space, your field, and your right, your sovereign being, right? And so, but when I say that, and it is those loved ones that come from that higher space, and one of them is my dad. He's just so high. Wow, he's really, really high. And he's been gone since I was 23, and I was just able to pick up on him probably a year and a half ago or so. My daughter picked up on him first, but she's been channeling since she was 8, and now she's 23, and she picked up on him first. But when he comes in, and I can feel him wanting to come into this space, so I welcome him. I have to say, please step back, because his energy is so big. So keep that in mind as you navigate experiences. And it's beyond the holidays. We labeled this holiday, survival kit in a way, because so many were in spaces of moving. You guys have changed so much. You have expanded so much over 2020, 2021. And, a lot of reconnective points can seem awkward because not everybody knows you like you know you. And you go back into a space you haven't been in a long time with people that have known you forever, and they automatically, it's a go-to. We all do it. They expect the same old, same old. And so they talk to you the way that they used to, and they treat you the way they used to, but you're not that version anymore. So certain spaces aren't as comfortable for you. And it's a space you aligned as well. I aligned as well, to allow ourselves to see and to allow even more expansion. It took me about a year, really, at least, of different pockets of family connectivity to come to the space now where If I don't want to go to something, I just say I'm not available, and I feel no guilt. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Um, and if there is an event that I feel like is important and I should go, even though maybe I'm not super excited about it for whatever reason, I always do this little check in my being of I'm an eternal being, meaning I'm forever, and this space is going to be a blip of my eternity. And I can either make war with it or I can make peace with it. And I can bring to it love and it can bring me love. That's a choice. Or, I can do the opposite with it, right? But I also make mental note, make a definite conscious alignment of understanding that everything I experience, I have orchestrated. Nothing comes into my path that I have not created to align into for me to see, for me to experience. Nothing. Nothing. I am the creator of my now. You are the creator of all your nows. There is a collective as well, but we are still always the sovereign being who is having the individual personal experience. Just like right now, all of you who are here live, you're each experiencing this in your own way. Some of you may be like, oh yeah, I totally get this. Yes, this is totally aligns with what I've been experiencing lately. And then some of you may be like, this was me a year ago. And then some of you may be like, wow, I can't wait till I can look at it like that. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're all just different spaces of the journey. It's like if you go to get on the highway and there's 4 rest stops, right? From point A to point B. Some of us are at the first rest stop getting a little, drink from the vending machine. And then some of us are at the second one or the third one. And then there's a couple who are already done with the trip and they're up at the destination going, okay, we're right here. And they're sending love. So it doesn't matter where, just keep getting back into that vehicle, get back on that highway and keep moving forward on your journey, knowing that every single thing along that path, you are the designer. So if you need to tweak something, if you need to edit something, if you need to add, if you need to subtract, it's your path. It's your journey. Let everyone else drive their own car. Let them see their own road. Let them stop at the rest area that they need to stop at when they need to stop. And we don't need to know, we don't need to judge, we don't need to attach, we don't need to have anything to do with that. We just do us. And it really does free you completely to have your experience in your uncharted seas, per se, with your conscious compass, registering, I'm going to throw a little more patience into this space. I'm going to throw a little more presence into this space. But inevitably, it allows you to, no matter what the ocean is doing, that field is doing, you are doing, maintain peace. Maintain peace. Stay in your peace. Always, if you have the choice, and you do in every single space, and remember that you have the choice in every single space to always see it in its highest good, even if it's falling apart, even if it's not, even if it's an atrocity, even if it's a disaster, you stand for justice. Of course, you speak your truth. Of course, you don't let anybody harm anyone else. There's universal law. We do unto others as we want done unto us. There are consequences for actions. Yes, I'm not telling you love and light, let everybody, hurt anybody. But if in any space, if we're not allowing their greatest good, if we're not allowing them to be seen in a new light, then how are we ever anchoring that for how others see us? Right? Allowing the possibility of expansion for others, allowing the possibility in that new lens, in that awe and wonder, pick up on something different. Even if it's as simple as the house smells better than the last time you visited. Or, so and so's, I don't know, simplistic as it can be. So and so's hair looks very nice. Or, this other one, maybe they're acting very kind today, or maybe they're not. I don't know. I hate to be negative in any way, but I mean, I get it. I get a lot of feedback from people. So I hear a lot of stories and I get a lot of understandings, and I don't ever want to come off like it's all rainbows and unicorns. I get it. These are real life spaces people are having to navigate, and some of them have alcohol, some of them have abuse, some of them have um, rage and anger, and none of that is okay. You don't deserve any of it. But you allowing you to always offer you what you're looking for in the outer experience, offer you it first. Just make sure you're doing that first, that you're offering yourself love before you're hoping anybody else is going to love you, that you're offering yourself peace and understanding and worth and value, that you're listening to you before you're going to get upset that somebody else doesn't hear you. It changes everything. It is how the conscious compass holds its power. It is how the conscious compass holds its power. So, all right, beautiful ones. And in that field is infinite, limitless potential. And you are the one that is creating the map, if you will, the chart of the course. So allow yourself to trust you and lean into you and love you. Love you. Does anybody have any questions or anything they want to share? I have a few minutes here at the end that I would love to make available to you. If there's anything you'd like to ask and or share, you can take yourself off mute or you can type it into the chat, whatever you'd like. And if you prefer to write me personally, if there's anything you'd like to share with me, you can always email me. Did I hear? Yes, Sandra, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, so did your dad come through while we were doing the meeting? You said he was wanting to come through.
Yes,
What happened? What happened with that? Is he still around?
Yes, I feel his presence. I believe he's just right here to my left. He's just holding a lot of peace. He is very grateful for what I do. And many times when I am holding session space, he's been with me for several years in my work. I used to do this locally only. So in 2018, I had people come to my home here and had a small group of people that used to come. And that was the first time my daughter felt his presence. Was he came into one of the in-person group sessions I had here. And I couldn't pick up on him. But then I actually was having a session with one of the individuals who is here right now with us. She was having a one-on-one personal session with me, and her session was so high vibration, like she had guides coming in and angelic beings were coming in, and there's a lot of clearing going on right now. So if you're clearing, if you're feeling any clearing in your solar plexus, just allow. But during that session, afterwards I felt the energy rise considerably, and I first started to feel like my heart was pounding and it was going up into my throat. And I had felt that many years ago, but not for a good reason. It was for being all worn out. So I thought, what is this? How can this be happening? I've been taking care of myself, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, I heard in my being, your dad, your dad. And so like I felt like my higher self was trying to tell me to lean in and feel the space, which is what I was talking about today. When you sense the space, instead of judging it or assuming, take a minute to consciously read it, like sense it and feel it, and ask yourself, what am I feeling? You listen too, because you'll talk to you. And I did have to ask my dad to step back just a bit. And in fact, in the session with the individual who's here right now in class, a shout out to you, gently. In their session, we had to ask the guides to step back that were coming in for them because their energy was so big. It was so big, and we were both feeling it. And so we just asked them gently, nicely, could you just step back a little bit? And they did. And the minute they stepped back, we were able, the energy just lowered to a normal space, and we were able to be in that space. But no, it's he is with me, and some spaces I feel him more than others. But it's interesting because when I was growing up my whole life, he was always the one setting the example of reaching out to help others know they were loved. Did you see that? That just went by the camera. Oh, that was so beautiful. So he was wanting others to know they were loved, and he, had a very deep faith in Christ and raised me in that space. And he was always sharing that love, that unconditional love. And so I feel like he is with me now, and he is saying that admires the space I stepped into because it took courage to drop old concepts and to move into it deeper. And he knows that. Like, that's what I get from him the most, is like he is aware of that, and he acknowledges that. And so that is very supportive and encouraging to me. And I really value that a lot. Um, so Holly said, when you say please step back, is that in our thoughts or out loud? You can do either. I have done both. Holly, I have had a moment before where I have felt like I needed to say it out loud. And then there was a moment, or more moments really, that I will just say it in my being. And remember, the first thing I say is I step back. Like, I acknowledge me first, because it could just be my own energy needs to just remove itself from the experience some, right? Like that moment where you are too much into the space of the experience, so the experience has gotten too much of your focus and it's become too big. So I say I step back in my being. That I say usually in my mind. I say I step back. But you could do it either way, whatever feels right in the moment and works in the moment. And then if my energy doesn't change enough, I'll say, please step back, as in, I understand that it's not me and the experience, but it's somebody or something else in the space that's a little bit too big and needs to move back some. And it always helps tremendously. I can't tell you, there have been nights I used to have a little bit thing with going to sleep sometimes. I think just being still in the bed, and my mind would start to think of things, but I will start to do that if it ever happens. Over the last year or so, I've started to say, I step back. And I mean, it's like less than 5-10 minutes tops. All the energy shifts, and I'm peacefully falling asleep, like naturally, like it's a totally different space. But it is sovereignty, and it's consciously navigating our lives. It's being present enough to make note of the energy, to make note of the experience, and then come from your wholeness, right? So it is, yes, it's very, very empowering, very empowering. So, all right, well, this video is going to be so cool now, because I might take that one clip and see if I can duplicate it or slow it down, but it looked like a feather to me. It kind of looked like a feather came down. And I'm sitting here in the third dimensional view looking at the laptop, and in my 3D view was nothing, but in the reflectiveness of the camera, I could see it. So it was very fascinating. Yeah, I was looking at this area and there was nothing here, but in the camera I could see it come down. So that which is how it usually is when I film. But yeah, that was really, really. Now there's these really big birds flying over my house too. I love that. I love that. Well, so I'm so grateful to share this with you guys. I really am. You are just such incredible, beautiful beings of light, and you are choosing to hear you and to anchor into your wholeness and to live from your hearts. And I'm just so honored. I know I tell you this all the time. I know. And every time we correspond on an email or a direct message, I always write blessings upon you. And I always say, hello, beautiful one. But that is how I think of you. I mean, every word I say, even if I've said it a million times, it holds the same depth of love every single time as it comes from my heart and it is pure. And I'm so honored to walk with you guys. So I can't tell you enough. I love you. I love you. I love you. Unending blessings upon you, divine ones. Unending.
Thank you.
Bye bye.